feature presentation.
What's going on, everybody?
What a strange noise.
Well, I mean, it was kind of like one of those exciting, like, here we go, let's do this thing noises.
Yeah, like, what a rush.
Yeah, who's that? Was that a wrestler guy?
Yeah, Hawk and Animal, yeah.
Ooh, was that like the Demolition guys? Hey, thanks, man.
Demolition was the copy of...
the Road Warriors.
The Road Warriors,
That's what it
yeah.
was. Football pads, black and reds, doing the thing. What a rush. Pretty good stuff.
But Demolition had a sick Rick Derringer theme song.
Speaking of wrestlers, did you see like like two of the most canceled wrestling boxing people in sports history, Mike Tyson and Ric Flair, apparently hanging out a lot and starting an edible weed company, which is pretty funny. And Mike Tyson's like making these like edible weed gummy ears that are banned in some states. And anyway, they were like last week they were just talking about how the whole Will Smith slap thing is kind of ridiculous, and Ric Flair was being like, as a guy who got really famous off of fake slapping people, he was just talking about how stupid that slap looked, and he's like, I would have punched him. If you're that mad, you punch somebody. But anyway, thought that was kind of funny in the news. But welcome to the show. This is the Drive-In Speaker Box. I'm your host, Bo, the boom operator.
I'm Slick Doggy, the grip.
And for the next hour, we're going to be talking to you about movies. We're going to talk to you about movies that are in theaters. And this week, in particularly, we're going to be reviewing a lot of movies because we saw 3 movies in the theater. We both went and saw Sonic the Hedgehog a Dose. And then I got to catch up on the A24 film X, and as well as seeing the new A24 release, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, a movie I've been really excited about. And we're going to be reviewing all of those movies, so going to keep the news portion of the show relatively tight this week. There is some big news that I did want to talk about. Some big news, some just interesting news, but wanted to jump in. Did you have any news bits that you wanted to throw out there?
No, there wasn't anything super big. Will Smith has now been banned from Everything Academy, whereas before they were saying he could still show up to the events. He just wouldn't be awarded anything. But now he's banned from all their events. So that's the hot celebrity goss.
It kind of sounds like a good thing.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
You know how everybody's like, man, I wish I had like a really good excuse, like a dog or kids, to like get out of all of these social engagements. Well, Will Smith's got that,
getting promotions and making money for no reason.
Yeah.
Michael Bay came out and he was like, I'll still work with Will Smith. I think he's a rad dude, and he's been nothing but nice to me.
And now he's an even badder boy.
Oh, yeah, he is.
Yeah,
he's
he can
a
just go
legit
around
bad
slapping
boy.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ain't letting you talk about Jada with your fucking mouth. Shut your mouth. Slap.
That's right.
Yeah, I did it.
Keep that name out your mouth, even though Jada's just like, oh, he's crazy. Don't listen to him.
Yeah, I saw that. Hey,
yeah.
thanks, Bottle Rocket. Also, Mads Mikkelsen came out and he said that he thinks
method acting is dumb.
super stupid.
He's not wrong.
So he's just making some waves there. And then something that's entertainment related, but not necessarily movie related. It was announced that WrestleMania passed Super Bowl in all things social media for this past one. So.
I kind of believe it. Like football, like NFL, people are still like, will they watch that? I mean, it's just always a Tom Brady show somehow.
Football's always like one of those things where it's like at least 50% is going to be let down because they're going for whatever. But wrestling is one of those things where it's either 100% of people are stoked or 100% of people are let down.
Well, I mean, wrestling is kind of just like sports days of our lives. I mean,
sports entertainment.
It's a soap opera, for people that want to watch people hit people. And I mean, it's didn't like Undertaker start crying like last week or whatever because he was inducted into the Hall of Fame? It's the first time he ever broke character in like a long time. Hey, thanks, Bottle Rocket.
He's actually been breaking character a lot lately since he retired. Like he did the Hot Ones interview, and there was a couple other interviews where like, hey,
what was his old name? Mean Mark Callahan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they're like, hey, now that you're not Undertaker anymore, you want to give us some like real stuff, some like non-kayfabe?
Some tears?
No, but he's just like, oh, here it is, and he like lays it out. So Undertaker's been doing that quite a bit. But yeah, it was weird. He was inducted. But
Chef
than that
Stephen
stuff.
Brooks there, another one of our viewers there on Facebook, saying Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar, entertaining Brock Lesnar. Of course, both of those people went on to have Hollywood careers. And shout outs to Stephen Brooks.
Lesnar doesn't have a Hollywood.
He was in some stuff. He was in a lot of stuff, wasn't
I
he?
can't think of any.
He was like in
movie that
UFC
Lesnar's-
for a minute.
He was in
and,
UFC, yeah, because he became champion even despite his diverticulitis and
Yeah.
beat the hell out of people. Yeah,
But shout out to Chef Brooke again. You know, we're gonna get him on the show sometime soon. I think you've probably heard me mention old Chef Brooks, but he had a local show around here called Cook with Brooks, as well as co-hosting a food podcast. But most notably, recently was on Beat Bobby Flay on the Food Network, and I think he's got a rematch coming up. So, get old Chef Brooks up here sometime to make us some food and or bring us some food or bring me some food and. Talk about
do the
what it's
Bo's
like.
Bites segment.
Yeah, what it's like to be on a Food Network show. So,
That's cool.
Yeah, it'll be
But
fun.
other than that, there wasn't too much news besides whatever this big news thing you're talking about is.
Oh well, okay. One of the big news is that the big news is that I wanted to talk about is Warner Brothers and Discovery. So speaking of Discovery Channel, which is under, Food Network is under the Discovery umbrella. A lot of people don't realize how much stuff is under the Discovery Network's umbrella.
Enough that they have their own streaming service.
It's huge. And Warner Brothers, of course, one of the oldest production studios still making films. I mean, we're talking a monstrous catalog of IPs. But they have merged, and we're talking like this deal, it's like, what's the big deal? I mean, Disney bought Fox, but this is WB Discovery. We're talking Discovery Plus, Warner Brothers, CNN, DC, Eurosport, HBO Max, HGTV, Food Network, New Line Cinema, Cartoon Network, Adult Swim, TMC.
Investigation Discovery for all of the true crime everything.
Everything.
Science Channel?
Animal Planet, Science Channel,
Yeah.
Motor Trend, like all of this stuff.
So I won't have to have the Motor Trend app or the Discovery streaming service. It's all going to get folded into HBO Max.
It's probably going to be something different.
HBO Extra Max.
So you're probably going to get HBO that's no longer Max, because it'll be, you've got Max as the top, right? So whatever, you'll get HBO Moderate. And or
they already
HBO.
did that. Remember, they're
going to do it again.
Redid their tiers. They did the tiers.
You think that they can't do it again?
Well, yeah, I guess.
This is the whole point. This is something we've been talking about on the show for a couple of years now with the streaming wars. Is how everything changes. You remember my story with the Alton Brown digital copies that I bought, and then they're like, well, Discovery has Discovery Plus, and now you don't own these anymore. So unless you want to. Even though they're still on Amazon, you're still watching them on Amazon Prime, but now they're behind the Discovery Plus channel paywall on Amazon Prime. So way to be stupid, idiot. And that's big. And whether or not we're gonna, this is not something that you're gonna see the repercussions of tomorrow. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon. You're gonna be seeing this is not necessarily good news. Big conglomerates, one percenters. There's no trickle down when it comes to media. They're gonna get us. They're gonna get their monies.
Yeah, it's just going back to it. It's like
a
very fast cycle of cable sucks. Get rid of cable. Get streaming services. Streaming services become everything. Get too many streaming services. Your streaming services all combined, and now there's only
cable
3,
again.
and now it's cable again.
Yeah.
It was a
The circle of life.
It was a pretty fast cycle.
Like Hannah on Facebook says, streaming wars. Don't cross the streams. Yeah, crossing the streams is bad.
Like
but
the Stay Puft Marshmallow.
That's right.
Man, I don't know. I'm on the opposite end of that. I kind of hope that it all does fold into HBO, so I only have to have one subscription service instead of buying Discovery.
You'll
and
never just have one, I promise.
Yeah, I don't know, but in a household, more than one person, my
Look at
fiance
Xbox
and I,
Live.
We both
Is Xbox
have started
Live on
canceling some of our stuff so that we can only watch the ones.
DLC and microtransactions, man.
Xbox,
iTunes.
The Xbox Live is its own thing.
I'm telling you. You're going to be paying for everything.
PlayStation
You're
just
going to be paying for
tiers.
everything, everywhere, all at once. That's
PlayStation for their PlayStation Plus has revamped it where there's different tiers of it. So what used to be just regular PlayStation Plus, they're like, well, no, if you want the free games with it, you're going to have to pay us even more.
Well, isn't there also, like, going back to Xbox, isn't there like 6 tiers of Xbox Live, Gold and Premium and Platinum? And,
No,
and then,
there's just one.
because there used to be like 3.
Nope.
Yes, there was, because it was like, do you want Xbox Live? Do you want Xbox Live Gold? Or do you want Xbox Live with Game Pass?
You're going all the way back to 360 right now,
I don't
which is
know.
a weird thing to say. All the way back to 360.
Which is only a
Game
couple
Pass
years
didn't
ago.
exist. There was Gold and there was regular Live. Live gained you access to internet, and then Gold is how you had to have to play with other people or whatever. But ever since Xbox One, it was just Gold. There was Xbox Live Gold, and then they introduced Game Pass, which is its own independent thing. But if you get Game Pass Ultimate, it includes Gold, and it's $15 a month instead of $60 a year.
Of course, that makes all the sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy, actually.
All right.
Not difficult.
Something that got mentioned in the comments that I was also going to talk about in the news segment. In the news this week, Variety announced that I thought that was pretty hilarious. A couple of studio companies, Strikeback Studios, Hideout Pictures, and Particular Crowd have teamed up with Spirit Halloween to make a feature film based off of Spirit Halloween, the stores.
Like a murder happens in the store. There's a killer loose, and one
not-
of those things that jump out at you.
I think it's more of like, people go into the store and there's actually spirits. I'm sure it'll be like a Goosebumps sort of style.
I was about to say Goosebumps the movie, but in Goosebumps the movie, they're like, oh, it's like the Goosebumps, and then they get
And then there's
attacked.
real monsters. But already attached is Christopher Lloyd and Rachel Lee Cook. So Christopher Lloyd. I mean, sign me up. I'm there to see Christopher Lloyd do, Great Scott, Spirit Halloween. And doing whatever Christopher Lloyd would do in a movie like this, except for way more old. So like, Great Scott, oh my heart. And then falling over. But I thought that was kind of funny because Spirit Halloween, I really like that store. A lot of people don't know it's like a subsidiary of Spencer's, which was bought by a different company several years ago. So Spencer's used to be owned by Seagram's Universal, and then they sold it off to a European company many years ago, and that's when it became more like Hot Topic Light. But it is the same parent company that has Spirit under its umbrella. That's why you don't see much Halloween stuff at Spencer's
Hot Topic
anymore.
was always like a teenage Spencer's.
Yeah, kind of. Just more wallet chains and metal music and
Less
anime.
sex toys.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean they've Spencer's has definitely gone all in and
I
all in.
haven't been in one in like a
They've gone
decade.
balls deep
Really?
into the sex store.
They used to have good T-shirts. I always used to
They
go
do.
in there for T-shirts.
They
and
still do have a lot of T-shirts,
like
and
the
shot
Seymour
glasses.
butts, where you would
Stick 'em on
suction
the
them to the
window.
window and you could moon people
I don't think
with
they
the
have that. I
squeezy.
think that's too wholesome for Spencer's.
Really.
Where butts. But
That was a
anyway,
good place to get T-shirts.
I worked there for many years when I was a teenager. It was a fun job. Other things, and then actually, you know what? I don't even want to mention any other news. There's another A24 movie. The trailer dropped this week on the front of Everything Everywhere All at Once. I thought this was a little weird, but Marshall the Shell with shoes on. I don't know if you remember this short, which is, God, over a decade old, like 10 or 11 years. It was a series of short YouTube. I was like a YouTube trilogy or something, and about this little shell that's just like, I'm a shell, and I'm a stop motion animation, and I'm really wholesome, guys, and I'm small, and I'm gonna travel the world. And now I guess A24 is doing a full length feature with Marcel the Shell with shoes on. I mean, wow, pretty surprised to see that. Looks wholesome AF. A24. Always putting out good stuff, so gonna see it, gonna check it out. But I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, there you go. We got to keep moving because we got a lot of movies to review tonight. So let's talk about what's coming out in theaters this week. We've got opening this week, April 15th, Tax Day, Garbage Day.
Garbage Day.
That's how I feel on Tax Day. I just walk outside and I go, Tax Day! And I just want to shoot everybody.
Then a Volkswagen flips for no reason.
God, one of the greatest scenes in horror film ever. Big weekend at the movies this week. 2 films coming out. Probably the lesser marketed of the two is Father Stew with Mel Gibson and Mark Wahlberg. You've probably seen the trailer. Director Rosalind Ross. It's following the life of Father Stuart Long, a boxer turned priest who inspired countless people during his journey from self-destruction to redemption. But Mark Wahlberg, losing weight and gaining weight, which is always interesting to see, because how do they do it? Oh, wait, being enormously wealthy and having a series of trainers from sun up to sundown to make you look that good when you're in your 50s. It's not fair. It's not fair, I tell you. I want on that routine.
Yeah, I mean, what I would give to have the secrets to the celebrity training so that you can just
and then they go, I drink lemon water. No, you don't.
Look like a Marvel actor. Yeah,
impossible. But also coming out this week, a lot of this is weird, and I want to pick y'all's brain just a little bit about this. But David Yates throwing out another addition into the wizarding world of J.K. Rowling, who is kind of skating on thin ice right now with cancel culture on her doorstep. And
what do you mean? She's falling through and everyone's just watching her sink, man.
Well, yeah, but everyone's going to the movies and seeing Fantastic Beasts: Secret of Dumbledore. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this movie turns out. Because I saw an advertisement in the theater, a trailer that was really, really weird, because the trailer was for this film, right? It's the new David Yates movie. It's the same people, Jude Law, Ezra Miller, who I think is also in trouble right now, Eddie Redmayne, and of course Mads, who is awesome. But this trailer wasn't just the traditional trailer for this movie. It started out with video clips of people at conventions.
Yeah, it was like a trailer for the Harry Potter theme park.
Yeah,
or something. It looked very much
remember how much fun you've had with Harry Potter. Remember that you love this.
Trying to remind you that the both Fantastic Beasts movie didn't suck. They're like, oh, hey, forget that they were terrible, especially that second one. But it's a new one. Go see it.
Yeah, a new chapter in the franchise that captured your heart 22 years ago, or whatever it was. And, I thought that was a really desperate ad. It felt like they knew. They were like, oh, God, we got to get people in here. So let's pander to the fact that they remember loving this.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, because Fantastic Beasts and Cursed Child and J.K. Rowling herself, none of those things have been helping Harry Potter to retain fandom for the future.
And, Harry Potter himself's like, look, dude, I don't want to reprise this role anytime soon. He's like, I'm happy where I'm at. I don't.
Well, but what if they approached him with something besides, hey, nice. Thanks for the follow.
Yeah, thanks,
what if
movie
they
Albert.
offered him a role other than Cursed Child? What if they're like, here's something good, What if it was
in the Harry Potter world?
Yeah, what if it's between, where they're like, Harry is...
He doesn't want to be Harry Potter anymore. That's what he said in there. He's like,
He didn't want to be in some J.K. Rowling nonsense and Cursed Child bullcrap.
He's like, I want to be in a Channing Tatum rom-com. That's what I want to be in.
Why
Just
not?
let me be this.
But what if they were like...
I want to staple guns to my hands.
Here's a movie about Harry being an Auror. I would watch that.
I think everybody would watch that, but
yeah.
Danny Boy doesn't want to do it. He's just like,
that's fine,
and let him.
I understand. I wouldn't.
He was just like, I think he cited, the Star Wars franchise. He was like, it was 25, 30 years before Luke Skywalker came back. So give me a minute, give me a minute. But anyway, Fantastic Beasts, really interesting choice for this commercial. I'm not super excited about it. I feel like, we're kicking a dead horse. We're trying desperately to. This is when an IP loses its magic, which is coincidentally about magic. And it's just it's kind of painful to watch, because the level of celebrity being attached to these is growing and growing and growing. But the reviews, as Bottle Rocket said over on Twitch, he said reviews have been mixed so far. People are just like, I think we're over it. I don't think we need this right now. Like, let it breathe, and then maybe have, like, a phoenix rise from the ashes, and it's like, okay, let's revisit this thing.
Because really, the only attractive part of it is that it takes place in the wizarding world. I mean, the story's terrible. It's awful. It's very bad. Like, Dumbledore has a secret brother, and it's Ezra Miller, and he's kind of evil, and there's a wizard Hitler, and maybe Dumbledore kisses him. Who knows? And you're like, all of this sounds awful. And they're like, it is awful.
And a muggle has a wand.
Yeah, but magic.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I like
so
magic.
that the audience can go like, I'm a muggle, and maybe one day I can do magic. It's like, no, you missed that boat, guys.
Yeah, and it's the Balls of Fury guy.
Yeah, and it's
Dan
a fat, depressed adult, so you can definitely tell who they're trying to appeal to. Anyway, yeah, that's what's coming out this week, you guys, and you can see it. I'm definitely gonna go see Fantastic Beasts. I'm gonna review it for you. We're gonna talk about it, because that's what we do here on the show. So, with that said, Bottle Rocket says, name the lead character.
Newt Scamander.
Try it. Yeah, Newt Scamander. Commander Newt Scamander. Yeah. I mean, and Eddie Redmayne, what a not even engaging. Like, he was so boring of a lead that they're like, well, let's just bring Dumbledore back. And if you really want to start picking Dumbledore as a what a kind of a piece of shit. It's like, Dumbledore lies constantly, lets people get murdered for him, like, allows a child to grow up in an abusive home because reasons. And, like, Dumbledore's not a good cat.
Yeah, it's for the greater good. There's the argument there. It's the only way to...
He probably could have hidden him in a happy home.
No.
I don't know. Anyway.
Well, but Snape finds out and he's like, "Oh, you're gonna sacrifice the boy? You're a terrible person. You're a bad person."
Yeah, exactly. Snape
but
was
Dumbledore's like,
the whole time.
I saw into the future, and this is how it has to go, and this is the way it needs to be.
It does.
Because there's Wizard Hitler 2.0. Because I don't know why there has to be two Wizard Hitlers.
Because you always got to have a bad guy. But what if the bad guy was in here the whole time? What if they made Dumbledore the bad guy in this? That would be kind of cool.
No, because they already made old dude. He's like, I'm going to make World War. And everyone's like, ooh, maybe don't. And he's like, no, it's going to kill lots of muggles.
It's the only, or like, inarguable bad guy. Like, it's the only bad guy left, like the World War person, a Führer, that we can just be like, yeah, of course, pure evil, kill him, whatever. No one's going to come to their rescue. So he makes a good movie bad guy. I don't know. It's coming out. We're going to see it. Not super excited about it. But movies that we are so excited about, let's talk about it. I'm gonna do a quick review of X, just because it's been out a little while longer than the other ones, and
Vince brings up a good point. When J.K. Rowling was asked where wizards go to the bathroom because they never.
I thought Moaning Myrtle hung out.
They had the
in
toilets, yeah. By the time Harry was there, but like original Hogwarts, like what did they do? And she's like, I mean, they just dumped and then were like, Leviosa, like flung it away.
Gross.
Yeah.
Why would you choose that spell?
I don't know. I couldn't remember any other Harry Potter spells except Accio, and no one wants that. You know.
Oculus Reparo. The turds all just form one.
Yeah. What's the Latin word for smelling? Yeah, do that. Reparo.
Ew. Yeah.
Olfactorus reparis.
Swoop, and your nostrils go away, and you can't smell poops. Anyway, what is the show about?
It's about movies.
It's about pooping. X. Let's talk about X. This movie is never got a super wide release. It came out of a lot of theaters nationwide. It's in less than 1,000 theaters nationwide right now, but it is another A24 release, which is really interesting to have two A24 movies in a theater at the same time, which is pretty cool. A24 really making a huge footprint for itself in the past handful of years. I think COVID really helped it out, which is kind of interesting. But as Sam asked, is it a prequel to XXX? No, it is not.
Triple X with Vin Diesel.
It is not a prequel to that. Although Ty West did film a prequel to this at the same time as this. So there is a prequel. He wants to do a trilogy. And when I found that out, it made me not like this movie as much. So I'm going to save that part of the review until after I talk about it. But Ty West, a lot of people know him from his film VHS. One of my favorite Ty West films is House of the Devil. Very well done horror movie. He does like dealing. I think he works best in the sort of late 70s, early 80s time period, except for like another argue or a rant that I go on is how I guess all these young filmmakers don't know that 5,000 degree color temperature bulbs and LEDs were not invented until like kind of the 90s. So like when you have 5,000 degree Kelvin bulbs all in your 1970s style movie.
No way.
Yeah, there's no daylight color bulbs in the 70s, guys. Go down. That drives me nuts. But I can get past it. This movie, I think, was interesting because the trailer did not really portray what this movie was about. The trailer to this movie was just like, pumping songs, chainsaws, blood, titties, looking wild, looking crazy. It's about a porno film on a farm, farmer's daughter, but the farmer goes crazy, blah, blah, blah. And you walk into this movie thinking it's going to follow a whole lot of the standard horror movie tropes that came out of the late 70s and early 80s. And it did to a point, but what I think makes this movie really interesting as a modern horror film is, not to lecture you on, horror theory, which you'll get plenty of that if you watch this show long enough. But one of the things that I say a lot on the show is modern horror of the day is always a reflection of our current fears, and then when you make a movie like this, that's like, okay, well, the traditional formula of movie like 70s and 80s slashers was teenage sexuality's bad, drugs are bad. If you're out doing these things, then you gonna get got, right? Like it's punishment for all of this like wild behavior, the boogeyman will get you sort of thing. And while that formula sort of held true, this movie was not about that at all. This movie used this template to really explore some very scary modern fears, which I thought were really, really interesting because the movie was not about like a bunch of teenagers getting axe murdered because, they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. This movie was really about the fear of getting old and the fear of, how youth clings to their youth and doesn't think that they'll ever become old. Like they're like, I'll never be like you. But the old people are like, I was like you once. I was exactly like you once. And then I lost it all. And now I'm crazy and I want it back. And, be careful before you become me. And the main character of this movie, the killer, is this old lady. She's not powerful. She doesn't have mystic abilities. She's just horny, alone, and crazy as shit. And she used to be beautiful and a dancer, and she used to, have all the sex and be wild and free. And what, you don't like sex?
No comment. I'm not.
You don't like being young and having sex? Audience?
No, geez.
Audience? Okay, well,
Looks like it's just you, pal.
it's just me loving having good times. And all right, well, I guess clearly, I'm the coolest dude in the room. But this, it's kind of sad. You have a little bit of empathy for the main character where this, elderly woman is, not getting satisfied, and that her husband, wants to provide and wants to, but he's like, he can't. He's old too. He's got his heart, but he loves his wife and he wants to, try and keep her happy. And sometimes that means if some young hippies pull up in a thing, that maybe they might tie him down in the basement and touch their ween, and then accidentally murder on him. And yeah, exactly. That's the face you should make at that because it's disturbing. But when you get this other group of people that are clinging to youth so hard, while kind of destined to fall into the same trap that our main murderous characters are in, it becomes a really interesting tale of the boogeyman is time. It's not a person in a barn that's going to murder you. And I without just going into scene by scene examples and details, like the movie, much like some of Ty's earlier films, was a pretty slow burn for the first two acts, and the third act was boom. Movie Albert says X is trash. Gonna have to disagree.
Also, was a big Fantastic Beasts fan over here. So some strong opinions from Movie Albert.
I think that this movie, was well done as modern horror goes. I agree, it's not for everyone. It's gratuitous. It's disturbing. There's a lot of like moments that make my skin want to crawl. But for a horror film to be about the 70s, taking the tropes of 70s horror movies and then modernizing them in a sense to where it represents new fears of our current generation while still not being able to use things like technology and Instagram and Facebook. They were doing something, they were shooting a porno movie where it was like, oh, me, I want to celebrate me and my this, which is very much a reflection of how our current, OnlyFans culture and Instagram and all of this kind of stuff. I thought that it was well thought out in terms of just like, a counter to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel, which is like, oh yeah, remember this guy? Remember he had this weapon? Oh, well, here's some youths. All right, he's going to chop them up. Ooh, we're going to see new ways of people getting chopped up. And this movie wasn't about people getting chopped up. And I thought in that respect, it was kind of inventive for a horror film. So A24X looks like it's going to be a hack and slasher. Definitely not as skin deep as you think it's going to be, and probably why A24 picked it up, because it's a little bit more than your classic Chainsaw Massacre while still looking like it's going to be exactly that. So in theaters, not many though, probably going to be hitting streaming soon in the next couple of months, but I thought it was pretty good. You probably would have hated it, Jake. I think you would have.
Lots of jump scares?
Not really. Not really. Let's see. Night Owl actually said, conflicted with the lady having needs, but then being the crazy one. Why can't old ladies just want to get down? And I think, that's what I got out of it. She just wanted to get down. And tried a couple of times. But the thing was like, the parts that were the most disturbing in this movie were not the ones where she's knifing someone in the throat. It's the part where she, takes her clothes off and, lays down and tries to touch that girl. And you're just like, ah! And that
was in the trailer.
And that was like, and that was more disturbing. So, the interesting thing to me as a person who kind of tries to pick apart horror is I got more fear, and I had the visceral response of my great grandma Meemaw, or not Meemaw, Mamaw. There was two different ones. Mamaw, I'm coming over to her house and I'm a little kid and she's got that hairy upper lip and wanting me to give her some fucking sugar. And I'm like, no! And I felt that moment. It's old people are gross, but one of these days we're all going to be gross like old people. And what is, my brain, and it's
dislike.
Yes, dislike, exactly. Horror is supposed to make you feel dislike, and that's why I thought this movie was kind of fascinating in a way, because my God, I was grossed out. You took Deacon's Easter basket. So yeah, going back to Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, I believe that's a reference from that, where they go into hell, and he's there, and the grandma's running after him, and it's got the mole. All the grandmas have the hair where you don't want it, and you're just no, I don't want to give you sugar, get out of my face. Anyway, trauma. That's a movie. You could check it out. All right, so we need to keep moving. Let's talk about Sonic, because that's the movie we both saw, and I'm gonna let Jake start this one off so I can take a sip and get my breath.
Oh man, okay. Well, Sonic 2 followed the path set by the original, or the first Sonic movie, which is try and make a theater-going movie that involves human beings in it somehow, but still stay as close to the games and fandom as they can. And I think they pulled it off again. I think they did a pretty good job. Because there were times where I was totally out of it, for sure. I was like, oh, the human characters are dumb. I don't care about their story or even looking at it. And the pacing got off with them because who cares? And you could tell they probably edited some of that stuff out. When they got taken away and then rescued, it just kind of happened. And you're like, well, I don't even care, really. But every time you would get Sonic, Knuckles, Tails, or any of the things that they were doing on screen, or even Robotnik, it was like, yeah, that's from the game.
Well, because Jim Carrey is essentially an animated character anyway.
Well, and you get to see Robotnik the way that Robotnik's supposed to look as one of his outfit designs. You got to see the big Dr. Robotnik robot. You got to have Tails in his biplane flying. You got to have Knuckles climbing with his knuckles. Like, just things that are from the game, music or phrases or whatever.
References like the Mean Bean Coffee
Right,
House.
yeah,
like,
so
a lot of
anything
deep little cuts.
Anything like that just stood out to me as someone who sat and played Sonic 2 on Genesis for way, way, way too long, because back then games were hard to get, and you just had
also
to,
hard to beat.
Yeah, you just had to play through the one you had over and over and over and over and over again. I liked it.
So to echo that sentiment, I also liked it. I mean, my biggest complaint was the runtime. They made this one longer than the last one, and I feel like that's just a byproduct of being a sequel. Need to go bigger, need to go better. And a lot of the parts that I think could have been done without was the side plots, like, you know, with the sister and the wedding and the, you know, the boyfriend that's a secret agent and like all this. Like, there was some superfluous stuff that just kind of got in the way. I think 20 minutes of this movie could have been shaved off to really get down to what made the first one kind of resonate with audiences. And this one came out, like, this one kicked the door open, 70-something million worldwide box office. We'll cover that later at the end of the show, like we always do. But you know, Ben Schwartz, I think he makes Sonic. Like, he does a good Sonic. Whoever is writing this, and I want to say the Pat Casey, Josh Miller, and John Whittington wrote the screenplay. The writing for this film is surprisingly good for a family adventure based off a video game. You see a lot of these family movies, you see a lot of these animated movies, you see movies like Garfield, which are the crossovers, and it's like they can't figure out what audience they're trying to appeal to. Is this a movie just for kids? Is this a movie for adults? Is this a movie for people that like Garfield? You know, and then it becomes a movie that's for nobody. And somehow this writing team managed to find a way to satisfy each of these demographics that are going to go and see this movie. You know, is it an amazing film? Of course not. No. But what kind of gives it my stamp of approval is it, for what it is and what it set out to do, it did it. And like, that's kind of impressive to me, because if you would have told me years ago and you rewind, you go back in the archives of the drive-in speaker box, I was not excited about a Sonic movie. I thought it was going to be the dumbest thing I ever laid eyes on in the history of film. I was like, we don't need this. No one asked for this. It's going to be trash. Because I was like, there's no way they're going to do it right. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. I actually like this movie. What the hell? And then this movie comes out and then does more of the same, which is the only thing we could have asked of it, you know? And as Vince said, he's like, did you hear that this is, you know, Jim Carrey's kind of retirement role?
Yeah, I did read that. He said that this is probably the last time.
And rightfully so. I mean, he's had an amazing career. I think he's kind of done. He's over it. I think a lot of Jim Carrey, you know, if you read interviews with him, he's kind of over celebrity, and he's kind of over with what Hollywood is right now. And he's just like, I've done my time. I don't really want to play in this world anymore. And he has the luxury to be able to back away and still live a happy life with a decorated career. You know, and I think that moving forward in this franchise, because they did set it up with a third one, and, you know, spoiler alert, there, you know, the teaser, if you've been on the internet, Shadow the Hedgehog is teased.
Well, and that was the one thing I was like, they skipped so much. Where's my Spinball movie? You know,
or at least a reference.
Yeah,
you know. But it's really unlocking the door to a lot of content that I think is just going to become overwhelming for this franchise, and it's going to just probably crush it underneath its own weight. Like, I think the simplicity of Sonic versus, you know, Robotnik, which is what made the first couple of games, you know, easy to understand, easy to digest, made some colorful characters, started a huge franchise. I think the bigger of this world that we open up, the less it's going to translate onto screen with characters like James Marsden being like, I'm your dad. You know, like, that's going to start to feel really dumb by the time Shadow the Hedgehog comes around. You know,
well, and if they introduce the chows and, like, they go and raise the chows in their chow garden on their whatever that planet's going to be and stuff like that. So
Vince said video game movies are perhaps getting better because the people making them grew up playing and respecting them and now are making movies. You know,
instead of just old butthole men.
Going, kids like this, let's make a movie about it.
Yeah.
Where's my Toe Jam and Earl movie then? That's what I want to see.
I don't think it would translate to a good movie. But Sega is, I mean, you have that Sega production
Where's my Golden Axe
opening
movie?
that shows Golden Axe and Yakuza and Sonic and all these.
Where's my Shenmue movie?
Yeah.
You know?
They got.
Where's my God, where's my Fantasy Star movie? Dear God, that'd be cool. Oh man, that'd be super cool. Night Ashley says, I really hope we keep seeing movies that are good to watch with the family. I appreciate quality movies I can watch with my kid. I think our generations are looking for more of that. And I agree. You know, I mean, you know, I think both of us, Hayao Miyazaki's one of our, I think we can easily agree that one of our favorites. Like, we love anything Miyazaki. And the thing that makes him such
I wouldn't say anything. There's one or two that are
not amazing, but they're all good.
Yeah.
But what makes him so good is his films are not just, you know, you see so much stuff coming out here that is just so unabashedly for kids, like the trailer from like Minions 9, where it's like more minions going, look at my butt, but, Kevin, you know, and it's like, oh God, it's so mind-numbing that no adult human would be like, okay, let's go see this, and have a good time. You know, you get the occasional film that understands that parents are in the room too, and it, you know, you can resonate between both young and adult with just telling good stories. You know, it doesn't all have to be about murder, guns, sex, and whatever to appeal to adults, and it doesn't all have to be like slapstick fart jokes to appeal to kids. You can find those middle grounds and make really good movies, and
Suburban Commando,
like Suburban Commando. But I think that this is a good example of it. You know, I think Idris Elba was a great choice for Knuckles. You know, you know, Ben Schwartz's Sonic is always really fun. You know, and as cringy as Tails tends to be when he starts speaking in video games, they nailed it. You know, I mean, this is Tails. Like, they translated it onto screen as good as I think it was going to do. So, yeah, there we go. What do we got in Vince says, I hear Chris Pratt, who is going to be in the new Mario movie, is only taking non-live action roles because he refuses to get vaccinated. You know, it's going to be interesting. You know, video game movies are becoming more and more a part of our lives now. You know, Halo's a thing. We've got the Sonic movie is a thing. We've got what else is coming out that was.
See, Sonic is a good example of how you can do something if you insist on changing it. But you're still like, hey, here's everything you like. And Halo is like a really bad example because they're just like, you know, everything you like. What if screw that?
Well, the producers quite literally said on Halo that we did not look or play or reference any of the games when making this. And they're like, well, why would you do this?
Yeah, why?
Why? So Sonic the Hedgehog 2 in theaters right now, it's worth a watch. I mean, if you played the games, there's a lot of fun, cool references. There, I mean, the moment at the end, I texted you. Did you have like that? Oh hell yeah! Moment at the end.
The Chaos Crystal stuff.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is cool. This is tight. And
I mean, as soon as I saw the Dr. Robotnik robot, I was like,
you knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, well, I just knew. I was like, that's the video games. And you have like Tails on the only thing was that Sonic wasn't like hanging on and spinning on the biplane. And I was like, that was the one thing that I really wanted to see from that part of it, you know, but
we got it. We got the biplane. We got the friendship bond with Knuckles, just like you know, and it worked without feeling super forced.
There was so much of it from the video games, and I was like, yeah, this works.
But
so it wasn't bad. If you like the first one, it's more the same.
Yeah, I can't believe I enjoyed it as much as I did. So there you go.
Same with the first. We walked into it like, then you walked out. You're like, they kind of did it.
So that is in theaters right now, doing very well at the box office. And the next movie we're going to talk about tonight is the new film Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Again, A24. This is written and directed by Daniel Kwan and Daniel Schneider. Starring Michelle Yeoh and Ke Kwan, which everybody remembers from his two most famous roles, which were kind of his two only roles, as Short Round from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and Data from The Goonies.
Wasn't he in UHF also?
If he was, it was just for a very brief second. I can't confirm that 'cause I don't have a very.
No, he was too young. It wasn't him in UHF. It was the dude from 16.
He was
Candles.
in Encino. He had a Encino Man. That's what it was. He had an Encino Man cameo, and then that's about it. He has not really been in anything since returning to Everything Everywhere All at Once. And one of the directors commented in an interview that I read that he was just like, I never thought in my life I would have to call Chunk to get data in my movie, because Chunk is an entertainment lawyer now and also represents Ke Huy Quan, because they're still friends. They've been friends all this time.
That's cool.
But this movie, wow, guys, I'm gonna probably spend the last period of this show talking about this film. A lot to unpack in this movie. You know, when I walked out of this movie, it felt like if let's see, if Wong Kar-wai and Stephen Chow were homies, and they were like, we should get it's like we should go make a movie together and have Jackie Chan like fight choreograph a film that we're gonna have Michel Gondry direct. And it was just like these unbelievable meeting of the minds, but all coming from this one team that had nothing to do with any of those amazing people that I just talked about. But you know, this film is it's marketed like, it's really interesting the way it's marketed. You know, I'm just going to say this is one of my favorite films I've seen this year. Like, hands down, one of the best experiences I've had in a film, not without my complaints. My biggest complaints in this film are where it tried to tiptoe into a Rick and Morty sort of vibe, where it's just like so much absurdity for absurdity's sake to pander to the bros that are just like, yo, absurdist humor makes me feel smarter than I really am, and look at that, there's a butt plug that goes in your butthole. You know, and the funny thing is in a movie that is as smart as this movie and is about feelings as much as this movie is about feelings, and about like kind of trying to make you cry by the end of it, the kind of people that love Rick and Morty don't want to see this movie. And when I was in the theater, there was an entire row of bros behind me that, like, there was a scene where there was a dildo fight, and there was a scene where, you know, these guys put butt plugs in their butt to like power up and get, you know, extra strong, and it makes sense in the movie. I'll explain later, but you know, they all thought that was the most hilarious thing they'd ever seen. But by the end of the movie, when I'm sitting there about to cry into my popcorn bucket, they're like, "That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen, man. I hate this movie. Can't even believe I sat through two. I need more butt plugs and dildo fights, man. This movie's dumb." And that showed me that this movie was great, because the people like that completely missed the point of this movie. This movie is about so many things. It's about Chinese immigrants. It's about it's about living a different life in your life in a different culture. It's about family dynamics. It's about feeling lost. It's about having those moments as you age of thinking that you've completely failed at everything, but realizing that some of the most important things in your life are the things that you don't appreciate. It's about, it's about infinite choice. It's about, it's about so many crazy things all at once. And, you know, you've got people like Michelle Yeoh could have not been a more perfectly cast lead. Like, I mean, I grew up watching Michelle Yeoh movies. I had a huge, Asian cinema kick when I was in my teens.
Some foreign films.
Foreign films. And Jackie Chan, Stephen Chow, and Michelle Yeoh were people and Chow Yun-fat. I idolized these people. And I had a huge crush on Michelle Yeoh. And then she kind of got old. And I'm like,
but she was a Bond girl.
She was Bond girl. And it's like now, even when she's pushing 60, I'm just like, yo, dude, now I remember why I had such a crush on Michelle Yeoh, because she is so amazing. And then you've got Jamie Lee Curtis, who is also amazing and not stealing the show, leading an amazing supporting role. And then you got James Hong, who I didn't even realize was still alive. And he's amazing because he is Lo Pan, and everything really pisses me off. And he's so good in everything that he does. And these movies, or this particular movie, just, James Hong, these guys with the multiverse movies, A24 did something really unique. We're all familiar with multiverse because of with Marvel, right? But what's interesting that Marvel doesn't do is it's like, oh, well, I'm parallel universe Spider-Man, and I'm a different actor, and maybe you recognize me for being a celebrity, or I'm multiverse version of you, but I'm exactly like you from a different timeline. But this, you get to see the amazing ability of these actors because each multiverse version of them is very different. And so you know, Ke Huy Quan, for a guy who hasn't been in any sort of acting role in 20 years, was ferocious. He was aloof. He was a pushover. He was pathetic. He was an action hero. He was all of these things in 2 hours. You know, he played like 20 different roles in 2 hours. Same with Michelle Yeoh and same with James Hong. He was a guy in a wheelchair that could barely talk, and then he was a guy standing up leading a corporation, and then like, you know, you're like, oh my God, these performances were just over the top. And then, you know, Stephanie Sue playing their daughter, Joy, another just amazing performance from an up-and-comer, if I can get that emote over in the Twitch. Just seeing this wildly colorful performance coming on screen and being 20 different characters in one role. And it was just an incredible watch to see the visual style, to see something as absurd as like hot dog fingers turn into something that pulled your heartstrings, you know. There it is, up and comer. Thank you, Vince, for those emojis.
The weeb tossed in.
But you know, that's what made this movie so brilliant. Is when you look at it at the surface level and you're seeing hot dog fingers and you're seeing googly eyes and you're seeing, you know, a dildo fight and you're seeing all this absurdity. But to take that absurdity and turn it into something that's going to make you cry at the end of it is something that you don't get to see on screen very often. And this is a movie that you don't get to see on screen very often. So I definitely recommend you go see this because it is full of heart. It is well written. It is well acted. It just, you know, it just seeps of talent. From costume design to writing to performances to cinematography to sound design to editing to just everything is just tight in this movie. And you know, and to be completely Asian led, you know, in a time where everybody thinks that it all has to be Chris Pines, Chris Pratts, or Chris Hemsworths, or just Chris's, white Chris's. You know, this is a movie that shows that we can make diverse films without it being so like, oh, don't forget the Asian wheelchair guy. Like, you know, let's make a movie about these people and not throw them in because we have to. And it's a beautiful thing. So, you know, I can't say more praises about this movie. The more I think about it, the more there is to unpack. There's so many layers to this movie. And I think that watching it, if you're willing to let it go past the surface level of hot dog hands and butt plugs, you're going to walk away with a really interesting experience. Kind of like what was the Swiss Army Man? Do you remember that movie?
I never got to watch it.
It reminded me a little bit of that, where you walk into a film that I think it was Paul Dano and Daniel Radcliffe.
Yeah, it was Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah,
and it's just absurdity from top to bottom. But by the end, it had a powerful message that that you left the theater just like contemplating life. Let's see. Not Alex says, can't reiterate enough how much I'm loving diverse movies made by not white people. Agreed.
Foreign films.
Bottle Rocket 5000 says, same directors as Swiss Army Man. Well, there you go. I didn't even look that up, but I mean, it's no wonder the parallels are there. So, yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I felt the same coming out of this theater. So, Everything Everywhere All at Once, if it is playing in your neck of the woods, go see it. If anything, as a favor to me to support movies like this being in theaters, you know, I think that the more we give movies like this money in the theaters, the more movies like this we will receive from studios.
That was one thing on Sonic, too. As soon as you walked in the theater right before the movie started, all the actors telling you thanks for being in the movie theater. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're still doing that.
So to some of our viewers, looking at you, Sam, put your pants on, go see a movie, go see this movie. Pretty fun stuff. All right, so That brings us to about the end of the show where we talk about the box office roundup. We do this every week for those of you that are just tuning in, like guys like Movie Albert. Thanks for joining us. And what we do at the end of the show, it's the box office roundup. We go through the top 10 movies in America based off of domestic box office totals. And the reason we do domestic box office totals is because that's the only one the studios really give a shit about. That's how we get greenlit sequels. That's how we figure out what's coming out, what made money, what didn't, what we're going to see more of, and so on and so forth. So we're going to start with number 10. We're going to work our way down to the number 1 movie in America. And there we go. Number 10 is Sing 2, still being out. I don't know how this is still out in theaters, but 16 weeks being out there, still in almost 1,000 theaters. Did you ever go see it?
No.
Yeah, me either.
I never saw the first one. I would feel lost trying to watch the second one without having seen the first.
I saw the first one, and me and musicals, it's always a hard sell for me, and so I just couldn't bring myself to see the second one. $225,000 at the box office this week, bringing in a total of $162 million nationwide at the box office. So big dollars for Sing 2. Number 9, Dog, still out there in its 8th week in release, bringing in $514,000 at the box office. So far, bringing it up to $61 million at the box office for United Artists releasing. Number 8, movie in America, Spider-Man No Way Home, bringing in an additional $626,000 in its 17th week.
That's another one I didn't see because you got to watch it.
Well, you didn't see that?
I guess I need to before Doctor Strange happens so I can go see Patrick Stewart show up in Doctor Strange.
And Bruce Campbell.
Oh, bringing him in from the the first Spider-Man.
No, he's playing Doctor Strange, a version of Doctor Strange. Yeah, I saw him. He was on his Instagram in the makeup chair as Doctor Strange because him and Sam Raimi are homies,
Yeah, but he'll have to be Doctor Strange from the Tobey Maguire universe.
Yes,
right. Yeah, because he's always in the Tobey Maguire movies,
which is it's gonna be cool. I'm here for it. But $626,000 at the box office, $803 million domestically. It is well into the $1 billion club. 17 weeks. Sony very happy with that one. Number 7, Uncharted, still out there in 8 weeks in release, bringing in $2.6 million. So far brought up to $142 million for Sony. Sony just really putting them out right now. Number 6, Everything Everywhere All at Once, only in 1,200 theaters nationwide, but it did bring in $6 million at the box office. This is his first weekend in somewhat expanded release is what they call. If it's less than 2,000 theaters, it's still expanded. And then once you cross into the 3,000 to 4,000 theaters, that's called wide release, nation release. So up to 8.4 million so far in its limited run. So not too bad there. Its average per theater would put it at the number 2 movie in America. But that's not how this works. But it's doing more than double the number 2 movie in America, which we'll talk about in a minute, blah, blah, blah. Number 5, The Batman, bringing in $6.4 million this week, and its 6th week in release for Warner Brothers so far, $358 million. It did all right. Batman sells, We like to see it somehow for whatever reason.
I mean, I think Batman's rad, so.
Everybody thinks Batman's rad, and everybody's got their favorite Batman.
Adam West. Always.
Okay.
Easiest.
No, dude. You got to do something controversial and be like,
Diedrich Bader.
Okay. All right. There we go. That's one that you can also do. I was gonna say Val Kilmer, but I was just gonna be the contrarian. But number 4, Ambulance, $8.6 million at the box office from Universal. Not quite what Michael Bay was probably hoping for with a number 4 opening, but that's what he got. So coming in behind the number 3 movie in America, which was Lost City, bringing in $9 million in its 3rd week in release from Paramount, bringing it up to $68 million so far at the box office. Number 2 movie in America, Morbius, bringing in $10 million at the box office, being slated as the worst drop-off in its second release of any comic book movie ever, is what they said. It had a 73.8% decrease from last week. So second weekend release from Columbia Pictures, bringing in $57 million at the box office. Still making its money. It's paid for itself. It's a profitable film. Everybody's like, it's gonna bomb. And it's like, it's impossible for it to bomb because the budget was only $75 million and it's made $126 worldwide. So I'd say that what is that, $50 million that it's made over its budget is probably profitable. But what do I know? So it's financially still feasible. And the number one movie in America, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, coming in at $72 million at the opening weekend from Paramount, just coming in with the Chaos Emerald, just blasting the door open. Number one. Thanks, Vince, for that emoji. That's pretty fun. Bringing in the money, Sonic, I think. But, we've got a lot of releases. It's really interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how Sonic stacks up with the new Fantastic Beasts film, because that's the same audience, basically. It's another family film. It's another, one of those things that's kind of casts a wide net with
nostalgia bait from the same age group, people in their 30s that grew up with it.
Going to be interesting to see how Sonic stacks up against the Wizarding World, but we will find out next week, ladies and gentlemen. Same bat time, same bat channel.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, right. I need like a button that does drive-in speaker box like whoosh. Yeah, you make that face, but then I have to make it. So
I'm not computer savvy. I don't know what to do.
There's YouTube. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Find us wherever you subscribe to podcasts. If you want to just get the audio version of this, you can do it anywhere you get your Spotify, Tuned In, Apple Podcasts, Google Music, whatever it is. You can do it. But if you want to catch out the live stream, we're here every Monday night, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, Twitch, and YouTube Live. You can send us emails. You can do all that stuff. You can slide in our DMs, or you could just like and subscribe and tune in next week and participate in the chat, because that's what these people over here get to do when they tune in live. For those of you that are listening to the MP3 and going, who are all these people that they're talking to? It could be you. So next week, we hope it is you. So anyway, I'm always your host, Bo, the Boom Operator.
I'm Slick Doggy the Grip.
And we'll see you guys next week. Laters.